Hello, my fifth graders. Welcome to 6.3. Today's lesson can be challenging. So I want to preface that and let you know that if you're struggling with this, it's okay. We're going to practice it together and we're going to take it really slow. But for these notes, just copy down what I write, see if you can understand it, maybe watch it a couple times, see if it becomes any more clear. So today's lesson 6.3 is estimate fractions. And if only it were that simple, you guys. Estimate fraction, sum, and difference. So we are going to be estimating, we're going to be rounding the numbers. I don't think it's as complicated as compatible numbers, but it definitely can be challenging. This strategy is called the benchmark for estimation. So we're going to be estimating using benchmark. Use benchmark. This is going to be mostly what they want you to do. They want you to estimate using benchmark. And the benchmarks that they have you use are 0, a half, or a whole. So where's the fraction? Is it closer to 0? Is it closer to the half? Or is it closer to a whole? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw that number line in my notes, whatever these are called. I've got a 0, I've got a half, and I have a whole. Perfect, okay? So those are the benchmarks that we are using, mainly because those fractions are easy to add. It's really easy to add 1 plus 1. It's really easy to say 3 plus 1. It's easy to say a half plus a half is a whole. So that's kind of the reason why we use these benchmarks and we don't use 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and a whole, or any of the other multitude of fractions we could use. These tend to be like the more drawn out fractions. So 0, a half, or a whole. Where is the number closest to? It's kind of how we're going to be looking at it today. And there are so many different ways to look at it. Most of what I do is I figure out what would be the numerator above the 0. Hint, it's always 0. What would be the numerator above the half? It's always half of the denominator. And what would be the whole? It's always all of the denominator. So if we were given the problem 1/6 plus 3/8, I need to think to myself, all half of denominator. Okay, so this is nothing. This is all of it. So if I look at my denominator, this would be 0, this would be 6, and this would be half of the denominator. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now, where's the one closest to? Is the one closer to 0, to 3, or to 6? And whichever one it's closest to, that's the number you write. So hopefully you see that if I had this 1/6, the 1 is closer to 0 than it is to 3 or to 6. So this 1/6 becomes 0. Now, what about 3/8? Well, none of 8 is 0, half of 8 is 4, and all of 8 is 8. So where is the 3? Is the 3 closer to 0, to 4, or to 8? And hopefully you see that that 3 is closer to 4. So that 3/8 becomes a half. So when I'm estimating 1/6 plus 3/8, my answer for estimation is 0 plus a half, or a half. We do that for all of these. That's what they're looking for you to do. Take the denominator. All of the denominator, half of the denominator, none of the denominator, and then compare the numerator. Is the numerator 0, close to half of the denominator, or close to all of it? And that will tell you, are you going to write a 0, a half, or a 1? Let's do a few more problems. Let's get ones that I like. So I've got 9/10 minus 5/8. If I had a number line, I would have 0, because 0 is none of the denominator. Over here would be 10, all of the denominator, and half of the denominator is 5. So where does 9 lie? Is 9 closer to 5, to 10, or to 0? So 9 is closer to 10 than it is to 5. So 9/10 is going to become 1. Now what about 5/8? Well, I kind of just did eighths above, but I'm going to do it again. So for 5/8, I have 0. Half of 8 is 4. All of 8 is 8. So now where is 5? It's definitely in between these two numbers, the 4 and the 8, but is it closer to 4 or closer to 8? It would be closer to 4. So 5/8 is going to become a half. Now what is 1 minus a half? 1/2. That's what they're looking for us to do today. You're going to take the number and round it to either 0, a half, or a whole. Now these ones were pretty straightforward. 9/10 is closer to a whole than it is to a half. Sometimes they choose numbers that just aren't straightforward, which is always interesting to me. Like, really, you're going to pull that on kids that are just learning. For example, they might have a problem that looks like this. 1 and 8/9. Not bad. Oops, sorry. 1 and 8/9, not bad, right? When I look at my number line, 0, 9, 9 divided by 2, well, okay, 9 divided by 2 is like 4.5. So where's 8? 8's closer to 9. So this becomes a 1, the whole, plus the whole. So this becomes 2. Okay, not bad. Now I'm adding 4 and 5/10. Well, 5/10 is literally a half. So this becomes 4 and a half. Now when I add that, I get 4, 5, 6.5. Sometimes they use the denominator fourths, which will tell you if I have 3/4, where does that go on my number line? Here's my half, here's my whole, here's my 0. Half of 4 is 2, all of 4 is 4. 3 is literally in the middle, like it is right in the middle. And so what do you do with a number like 3/4? Well, you kind of just make a judgment call and you choose one or the other. As a human being, I can grade that when we go online. It gets a little bit more tricky. So that is our lesson for today. The idea is either you are going to round the number to be 0, to a half, or to a whole. And you do that kind of by comparing the denominator to half of the denominator would be half of the denominator 4. So that numerator is closer to that. All right, you guys, I will see you in class for more practice.